I've been interested in watches for many, many years. Back in the 1970s, I was a kid at primary school and we all had digital watches, and some of them had musical alarms, and they were the coolest thing ever. And dual display watches, I had a Timex dual display at one point, which was a fantastic watch. But one of my school friends had a similar configured watch, and it was a Seiko. Now, by the time 1980 comes around, I'm not so much interested in digital watches, and I'm looking at watches in the shop windows and lusting after different sorts of grail watches. But at that time, Seiko was not quite unobtainable luxury as far as I was concerned. To be honest, I probably had a more mature attitude as a young lad than I do now, and that I would look at a very expensive watch as an attractive thing. But I wouldn't actually think of, well, buying it, because if I had that sort of money, there's all sorts of other things that I would buy. Probably multiple things I would buy rather than a watch. I'm possibly a little bit different now. Anyway, in the window of the local retailers in Stirling in Scotland in 1980, Seiko quartz watches, SQ watches, were probably the pinnacle of affordable luxury. Retailers just nearby sold Rolex, and at the time you could have a Rolex for, well, less than £1,000. But one of the interesting things is watches have changed a lot since those days, and I want to show you something that I picked up on eBay for just £30. Let's have a look at it. Well, people, here is the watch in question. It is a Seiko quartz, gold plated with a champagne dial, date window at 3 o'clock, the SQ logo just above the smaller Seiko quartz logo, Japan 822, that's the caliber inside, applied markers, lume pips, which we'll check out in a minute, a president style bracelet, but, and this is important, folded steel, which was common at the time, and you can even find that on some Rolex models, as could you find hollow end links. On the back of the case we have Seiko 01136. This is a Japan made watch, Japan J. It says water resistant but gives no meter rating. Stainless steel. And then a further iteration of the serial number. The 8222 is the movement. Now, the interesting thing about this watch that you will have noticed already is it is absolutely tiny. Very, very small watch. I'm going to do dimensions in just a minute. I'll let you see how small this is, but it's small and slim. And I think you'll agree it's in beautiful condition. Now, remember the serial number and the movement number. There is there's a serial number. There's the movement number there. Now, there is an online resource that I'm going to show you, which uses these two numbers to tell you the year of manufacture of your watch. And I think you guys will be quite surprised. Now, this watch is showing very little signs of wear, except here on the clasp, which is a pressed steel clasp. Again, routine for the time. And it wouldn't originally have had the Seiko branding in steel that's been polished off. I think what's happened is that this clasp has been renovated, and as you can see, it's been polished back to the steel on the sides, which actually matches the finishing on the bracelet. But I think that would originally have been gold plated, and the gold plating there has suffered, and so a previous owner has removed it. Likewise, I think they have buffed up the top surface of the Seiko SQ in order to make it look attractive, which I think it does. I mean, I think it does. Although I'd have preferred it in original condition, but there you go. I do prefer it in nice condition to original condition with patina, so no problems there. The watch has some scratches on the crystal, not visible from every angle. Maybe surprisingly for a watch that was quite expensive at the time, it has a plastic crystal. At least that makes the scratches easier to deal with. And in a later video, I'm going to get my hands on some polywatch and see if I can buff the scratches on the crystal out. We'll see how we get on with that. If not, the crystal will be replaced. That's an acrylic crystal. Now, if you have a look here, this is an old Littlewoods catalogue of a very similar model to the one that we're looking at here, but with a date complication. And you can see that that was on sale in the Littlewoods catalogue in 1981 for £77. Now that's actually quite a lot of money in today's terms. So this was an expensive watch, the sort of watch that your dad might have got from his workmates when he retired, or would be gifted as an anniversary present. This is not a cheap daily beater, and it hasn't been worn as a daily beater, otherwise the condition wouldn't be so good. I want to draw your attention to the beautiful gold plating. Back in this time, gold plating was still actually gold, and that's why it looks like gold here, rather than some of the kind of yellowy or brassy versions we get now with gold tone, which uses other metals or other chemicals in order to produce the gold colour. This is actually real gold plating on this watch, and although that does suffer, this doesn't be used as a daily beater. This has probably had comparatively little wear, either that or it's had the case fully restored, and the gold plating remains intact. Although the thing about gold plating, as everyone knows, is it does rub off over time. So it's even intact here on the bracelet links, although there are some scratches there. Okay, so watches, much smaller than we're used to today. This here is a Seiko quartz from the present day, just a basic one, and you can see it's substantially larger, quite a few millimeters larger on the case. This one actually is a 38mm watch as opposed to the 34 of a gold SQ. But where that comes from is, here we have a wristwatch from the 1950s. Notice gold plate also looking smashing, looking like real gold, and looking beautiful because it's not been all rubbed off. But the point is, like our SQ, it's real gold on this Avia. And the case diameter there, 32.8. Here's another watch, another vintage watch, Princeton 17 jewels. And this one's from the 1960s. 33.2mm. So in fairly recent years, watches have got much larger than this one isn't. And I don't think that's an entirely good thing. I mean, if you have a gigantic wrist, this will look like a very small watch on you, but for elegance purposes, that's not such a bad thing. Let's take a look at it on the wrist. I think that looks absolutely wonderful. And I don't think it looks too small. Now my wrist is 7 and a bit inches. So I don't have, it's an average size wrist. I don't have a large wrist or a small wrist. And I think this watch fits the bill quite well. I had to take 3 links out, so I did get enough. I did get the full link complement with the bracelet, which is another plus point. But there you are, that's what it looks like on the wrist. I think you'll agree this is quite a handsome thing. A little wrist roll there. Let the light catch the scratches on the crystal. And the polished gold hands. Time to give the watch away. 64 grams. So small, thin and light. Let's take a look at the measurements of this very nice, small, slim watch. Properly zeroed. Across the diagonal there, 34 millimeters. The thickness of the watch is 9.6 millimeters, 9.7 millimeters. We'll say 9.7 millimeters. Dancing around all over the place here. 9.7 millimeters. And the lug diameter, 17.7, so we'll say it's an 18 millimeter lug. The online calculator that I refer to down in the commentary under the video, this watch was manufactured in January 1980. So at the moment it's 42 years old. How amazing. And I bought this for £30 and it still works beautifully. I promised you a lume shot, but unfortunately the lume is worn out and barely glows at all. My phone couldn't even pick it up, so I should just cut to a black screen and show you the lume shot. Standing that though, I think I got a bargain. I got a beautiful little watch and a real piece of history, because it was watches like this that almost killed the Swiss watch industry. Having SQ and quartz so prominently printed on the dial shows that this was a selling point for these watches. Seiko and other quartz manufacturers were trying to persuade people to trade in their mechanical watches for these new marvels. Whatever your opinion on that, and I expect for a lot of you it might be quite negative, this is a lovely watch and I think I've spent a really good £30 on it. Till the next one, bye bye for now.